welcome in, welcome in. Get everything pasted in here. Let me do this. Oh my god, it did that thing where it just hits V. That's what it did. Alright. Cool. Awesome. Anyway, welcome in when everyone gets in. We're gonna wait for a little more people to pop in before we start going over, well, at least in deep detail. Regardless, we're just gonna go over the basis of tarot, which is just like the 4 phases that it talks about, the quintessential cycle that tarot is, and that life is, you know, going through the 4 elements, going back to the first, making it the 5th, and starting over again at a higher level, you know. But regardless, that's what we're gonna be talking about today. Just, you know, breaking it down, showing the story of tarot, showing how all the phases are there, and as well just to help others just grasp a little bit more of what they're reading, so they can, you know, have more knowledge for self and however. But yeah, regardless, tarot and tarot cards, I should say, should be showing, well, true tarot cards do show the evolution of the 4 stages of consciousness: fire to water, water to air, air to earth, idea to feeling, feeling to thought, and thought to action. And this pattern can be seen across many different cards. But the 3 most important ones that we'll be looking at, where they've shown the most, is the World, the Wheel of Fortune, and also the Magician. Before we get into that, though, it's good to know the order of the elements. Kind of knowing how they go. How is the, you know, the order of it. And it would go Wands, the Ace of Wands, to the Queen of Wands, to the Page of Wands, to the King of Wands, to the Knight of Wands. And this is your quintessential step, your cycle. The first, you know, birthing of the idea, from the invisible, from the PYR, delivered with no sort of physical nature being involved. The Queen being the cardinal sign, being the beginning, being something that needs nurturing. The ideas being seen, and it's being able to start creating an effect to draw in the attention. You know, this is like whenever you're walking down the street and you see a piece of paper on the ground. The idea of that piece of paper being on the ground is nurtured to some degree, whether you fully realize it or not, because you've actualized it. Unless you don't notice it there, then it wasn't nurtured. But this is, you know, you take a glance down and you see that piece of paper. That's the idea happening that you're being faced with, is that presence of that piece of paper, right? The Page of Wands obviously is the cusp, going from the cardinal to the fixed, you know. This is whenever things begin to become solidified. The question is first prompt, what am I going to do with this, you know? Just kind of looking at this. And of course, during the stages of the idea, all the other stages of everything that's going on is also happening at the same time. You know, the stages of the wands are hard to talk about due to how fast it's registering. But the fact that that idea is nurtured and catches your attention, it causes for that introspection, shows it goes from that nurturing stage now to the page, to the king, because now it's going to solidify some form of feeling with the knight. It's going to transfer, it's going to be fully mutable. Once the idea is established there that the paper is there, and that there needs to be something done with it, that's where the King of Wands would pop in with the idea seeing of that. Going further in would be the cups, you know, the cups, Ace of Cups, Queen of Cups, Page of Cups, King and the Knight of Cups, obviously. The cup, first thing, is the feeling, the idea sparking that feeling being that first thought that you get, that quiet thought, that thought that comes with that actual nourishment, that the idea was showing you that it had, represented by the green on the wands, of course. The green, the leaf on the life, shows that it has some sort of substance in it already, which is why it would go from fire then to water. You couldn't have something bare bone without that water, without that nourishment within it. And then with the Ace of Cups, of course, this is when, like, again, that feeling comes in. It's pure. It's that first thought of, what should I do with this? There's no direct motive. There's no full on direction. There's that leeway of free will where it just says, hey, you could do this with it, or you could do that with it. You could, pick up the paper, interact with it, or you could just move on with your day. That birthing of that feeling state, that first generative thought that clicks with you, that's that queen, when that's being nurtured, when it becomes to become more of that internal, more of the internals feel there. Of course, you might feel something on the physical, like you might get shivers or however, when you're, dealing with that feeling state based off the idea, but that doesn't mean that the feelings are that physical state. It's always that internal state. You're always going to be messing with the stages of mentality until you hit the pinnacles. The pinnacles is the one and only stage of tarot, of the quintessential cycle, that has nothing to do with the internal, has everything to do with the external. Not necessarily how you receive the feeling and what you do with it, but what you are doing with it currently and how that's going to move you forward into like the future. But anyway, back to the cups. After the queen, it goes to the page, where you begin to learn how to speak to that feeling, that curiosity. If you're really wanting to grab that piece of paper, are you listening to those feelings, listening to the thoughts that come with those feelings as well, oh, what if it's a dangerous piece of paper, what's on it, what if it's a silly note, what if it has like something laced on it, all those feelings that come through that are forming these light thoughts that aren't being held onto or solidified just yet. Those are what's happening. But whenever that thought is then, solidified, then you enter the realm of the king, obviously. That's, again, where things become solidified. It is, again, the fixed state of being. Not moving. It hasn't quite yet caused any form of forward movement, but it is something that has now been solidified. So now you're really wanting to pick up that piece of paper, right? Because it's just been sitting there for a while. You've been staring at it and like, yeah, why not? I'll pick up the paper. Curiosity kills the cat. Moving forward, that feeling then becomes that thought. That thoughtfully being, should I pick up the paper? Once you decide, like, what you're going to do with it, whether you're going to allow that feeling to drive you to pick up that paper or not, which is, again, something that happens in the mental, not on the physical. All these things are still in the mental phase. This hasn't happened yet. This is still in that phase of like contemplation almost, not full provoking thought, but still letting that feeling derive you of staring at it and indulging in its presence in that sense. In the swords, ace, queen, king, and ace, excuse me, ace, queen, page, king, and knight. The ace of swords, again, the crowning thought, the full-on thought of, let me do this, let me pick up the paper, going through those actions of being, I'm deciding to pick up the paper, no matter what's on it. I feel like I should pick it up. I'm intrigued in it. It would solve my curiosity. Moving forward, you then begin to, think like, look around, maybe, is someone going to come over here and see how long I've been standing here? All those sort of thoughts come through. The knight of the king, and then to the knight, solidifying that you are going to pick up the paper, and then the ace of pentacles, queen, page, king, and knight, actually picking up the paper, interacting with it, seeing what happens, and then the knight of pentacles, the final action. You finally seen what it was with the king of pentacles. Just maybe it was just a useless note or a receipt someone left. Regardless, it moves on to the knight of pentacles, to a new idea. Whether the idea is, that you wasted your time, or that, oh, well, this is pretty cool. However, that cycle moves on. And this is a cycle that we go through daily, that we do so very unconsciously. But here it is, again, like explained within the full tarot. And even here in the world, and here as well as the Wheel of Fortune, and even in the Magician card, you can see all the elements there. On the world, they're floating heads, meaning that you've ascended. You have a mentality over. You have a higher seeing, a grander mind over the thoughts that are bearing feelings. And instead of being moved by those thoughts bearing feelings, you're now allowing those thoughts that are bearing feelings to move with you. And moving with you in a supportive way. You have the Lion, Leo, obviously, the Phoenix, which is Scorpio, the Man, Aquarius, and the Bull, Taurus. But that is the quintessential cycle. In the world, you see it again. They have the wings. The wings just meaning that they have higher awareness. You know, think of that as like just being the higher self in that sense. And then in the magician, it shows you the four phases of consciousness used correctly to draw things from above to below. You know, you think letting the ideas sink in, letting that feeling motivate some thoughts to be created and to become solidified for action to be taken forward, right? And that is the quintessential cycle of tarot in that sense. Well, in the sense, a complete sense, really. Going even further, within the four phases of consciousness, what that tarot explains about and talks about, you can see in the Hierophant card how exactly the four phases fully works. Not like fully works in the full sense, but how the four stages are there to motivate you and guide you to like a togetherness state. We end up operating off of a two-step system, and that two-step system is usually being faced with an idea and immediately going into some form of action, whether that action is planning or that action is immediate panic without any sort of like thinking or control beforehand, and only control afterhand, which is a big issue within like the human development. It can cause a lot of self-doubt issues. It can cause a lot of just unnecessary panic. So it's important to know this process, to know how this process works, so that you aren't just running with, running unconsciously in that sense, running around not understanding why these phases are happening or even what is going on in that sense. So you can have more control over what you're allowing to be presented to yourself, rather than having everything presented to you control you and motivate you in certain ways that are beneficial or not, because the external world shouldn't motivate you or demotivate you from doing anything. That motivation comes from within, from that own soul passion. And that's another way to really make sure that you are following the quintessential step, is if you're worrying about, first, if you're worrying about the external, the internal. If you're worried about things on the external, you're already on the wrong step. You're not focusing on that quintessential cycle. You're starting all the way at the pinnacle, looking at the pinnacle, expecting that to change so that you can do the other phases, which is not how it works. If you're already faced with an outward appearance and an outward circumstance, you've already made it through all the phases, and now you just have to be accepting of what you have at this phase and move forward next, more consciously, more aware, with a bit more purpose, with a bit more passion behind it, so you know why rather than how. And again, this is like the rational mind. This is why we talk about the rational mind so much, because the rational mind is so worried about matter and time and how it interacts with it. That's why you have the five senses. Four is matter and time. Five is you interacting, the mind interacting with the world around it. That's your five senses, right? That's how you dictate matter and time. You can tell how dense and how light things are based off of your senses. You can tell how long something is, or tell its length with the five senses as well. And that's like the 3D illusion, the depth that we're in this realm. But again, with the Hierophant card, it shows you that there are two. There's two here, the two obviously there, and the two that the Pope is holding up. And that is a Pope hand sign. The reason why it's this and not this is because this is the true peace sign. This is togetherness. This isn't peace. This is separation. Obviously, those two are separated. That's how they want us to be, is to be separated. Because when we're separated, we're not together, we won't move good. Two heads are better than one, and they have us running with one head that are on completely opposite sides, because we're not aware of these things. The keys are crossed, representing Gebo, the rune, showing you not only that there's two keys to your solution, because there's two doors that you have to open. There's two, you have 2 feet, two sides of the spiritual, and then the physical. You can't be doing things on the physical to allow things to move on the spiritual without that spiritual backing first. You need things to happen within that spiritual. So it's up to you to connect to that self. That's why that disconnect is there. That's why everyone is separated and not together. They're forgetting that spiritual aspect of self. That spiritual aspect of self doesn't mean the delusional part of you. It means the part of you that simply just truly knows, the true intuitive part, the true feminine part that every individual has, regardless of what gender they are. We are talking about the full energetic value of how much an individual works from a heart space. Whether it's from a mind space or a mental space, tells you what space they're working from. A lot of people think that they're working from a heart space whenever they put in work from the heart, or whenever they believe that they're working from that heart. But in that same sense, When you work from the heart, it wouldn't be work. It wouldn't require effort in that sense. It would just be something that you would walk down. It would be a path of bliss, of ease. The heart doesn't have any form of those complication. It has the direct route, the direct destination. A lot of people end up working out of the rational mind to create this pleasing effect that their heart is being soothed, or that their heart is being worked with properly. But again, it's up to that full individual to be aware, like, are they truly being together? Are they truly operating together? Or are they just getting the ideas from the heart and running off with it with the mind, and forgetting that original plan, forgetting the steps, forgetting that quintessential cycle where you need that wand to last all the way to the pinnacle? You need that fuel from the wand to be fully developed and matured all the way through the other cycles before it can be that pinnacle, you know. And that's, again, this is what we're talking about here, the ideas to the feelings to the thoughts. And a lot of people, if they do run the quintessential cycle, they end up running it in the sense of the wands, to the swords, to the cups, to the pinnacles, because they have a mindset of thought using feeling, rather than, excuse me, feeling being used, being abused by thought, I should say, rather than thought working with that feeling. I have to remember the correct phrase here, the correct phrase, excuse me. Thought serving feeling and feeling serving thought. Thank you. Okay, so that's what we're messing with, is thought serving feeling or feeling serving thought. Are your feelings generating thoughts that are motivating you, or are your thoughts generating feelings that are demotivating you? And we can become very aware of this whenever we ourselves talk down, like, oh, you can't do this, oh, that's going to be too hard, this, that, or the other. That's how you can tell which part of you is using what fuel. That's the rational mind's point of saying, hey, everything is dangerous if you take this risk, no one's going to like it, yada, yada, yada. Talking about all that negative stuff, or however, pessimistic things, truly, that we don't really care about hearing, that prevent us from truly following those dreams. And that's what we're watching out for. That's feeling serving thought. That's when your feelings aren't motivating you in that sense. That those feelings end up becoming pressure, becoming hoarding on you, and they hound on you. They prevent you from fully flourishing and being together. This is where we get the devil card from. The rational mind, the five senses, the male, which is why the five is above the feminine, and the flame is on the male. The male is being inflamed, and this feminine is being silenced, being halted by the five senses, matter over mind, with the upside down pentagram and the bat wings representing your blind as a bat, being binded to Saturn's cube on the card as well. Also the card also being number 15, which is 6, is that spiritual blindness. It's that lack of spiritual awareness. It's being constricted by the forces inside of you that you just aren't fully aware of yet. And the opposite of the devil obviously is the lovers. That's your union of the opposites. That's when they're coming together. It is the spiritualization of self, the reunion of self-togetherness. That's why the male's tree, it has multiple flames, but they're not inflamed. They're growing flames. It's able to flourish. Your senses aren't overwhelmed, but they're motivating. They're being that pyre, that fuel for you. And the tree, the feminine, the tree, you're nourishing yourself. You're getting the wisdom. You're able to reap the fruits. The snake representing life. You being in the middle, the mountain in the middle, being in the triangular form, showing you that you two, both halves, or you are being aligned, lighting up. And then as well with the Two of Cups, the card that really explains both of these cards the best out of the entire deck. Are you, again, is your thoughts serving feeling, or is your feeling serving thoughts? Your feeling serving thoughts would be reversed. Your thoughts serving feeling would be upright. Your thoughts are serving feeling. They're coming towards. They're being the servant. They're receiving something from that feminine, so they can go off and do with it. That's what we're needing to do. That's the whole point of what we're achieving on this journey. This is the whole point of why people can't get to their destiny, because they're unaware of this aspect of self where there's two of you. The key is that there's two keys. It's not just you running around lost. You're not as lost as you think. You just don't have that second key. And a lot of that time when you're searching for that second key, you don't really find anyone who has that answer. Everyone thinks the second key is somewhere outside of you, or even they'll say, "Oh, it's inside of you. You just gotta dig deep enough." They don't tell you. Excuse me. They don't tell you what you're actually looking for. They don't tell you the part of you that you're needing to connect with. They're not telling you that the missteps that you're making. It doesn't matter how aware you are of like steps not working if you don't know what steps there are to even take. The whole fact of the alchemical order being out of balance, out of order, with the zodiac is a huge thing, because that throws people out of whack. People not knowing the alchemical order of things, people not knowing that it does go from fire to water, water to air, air to earth. People getting that mixed up. People not listening to the true chemical values of nature and how life is started. Overstanding that the wand, that fire, isn't a physical fire. It's a spiritual fire. It's PYR, PYR. It's too pure. It's from out of this world. Everyone talks about this source. They call it spirit, or they call it God factor, however, right? They call it all these names, but they tend to forget about that source being there. They tend to think that this light has to be physical, that the fire has to be like an actual physical fire. That light doesn't have to be anything that you see. That light can be a feeling. That light is just something that clicks inside. And that's what's going on with the waves of tarot. That's what's going on within the story of tarot. And so whenever you do get a tarot card reading, whenever you are listening to tarot card readings, whenever you're seeing these things, whenever you're seeing the symbols, when you're seeing the fire, when you're overstating that the aces are all of the all three signs of the zodiac, for whatever phase they're in, it's all three of them. It's the entire fire, the cups being the entirety of water. How all of these phases are in with each other, intertwined with each other fully. They're always interacting with each other. You can't have one without the other. There's physical land there. There's the cloud that already represents water and thought. There's something that's already handing you this, that's already thought about it. It's already moving towards you. It's already there. It already has the water. It already has the fire. It already has the water. It already has the air. It already has the earth, the physical hand there. It's already completed something. It's handing something to you new. This is the whole part of the quintessential cycle. You're not starting something brand new. You're starting something that's latched off and broken off of the last bit of what you've gone through. All the elements are there. Again, the trees there, the ground there, the water there, the air there, the physical castle in the background. All these things, all these elements are in all the cards. It's about everything. Doesn't matter which one you look at. It shows you which one's receiving most of what it needs. Going to the cups, you can even see the fact that there's floral there shows that there's something already happening within that physical state. The idea, the fact that there's a dove there that has something of life, something that's coming in that represents something of purity, that pyre, that source, coming in and quartering into the mother and to the two halves of you to unite you, which is why it's not only just a W, which is water, which is not only water but matter and mother, but also two parts of you, the two pillars, the right and the left pillar of the brain, being connected in the middle with that little V point, showing you that you need to meet in the middle for the both of you. You are in the middle. That's you. You're being nurtured. That heart space is being nurtured, being cleansed out and purified so they can grow things around you, so you can be motivated by that feeling to then think about what you're going to do next. The floral around the crown on the swords, there's something of life in this. This is the story of life. There's something that's being created through these cards. There's life being created. It's very important to know what life you're trying to create when you're reading these cards. And that life you're trying to create isn't necessarily a story about all these random characters outside of you. The story, the spark that you're trying to get is the question that your core asks you, which is, how do I get back to myself? How do I do this? How do I need to do that? What's preventing me from blocking myself? That's the story you're telling them. You can keep it in that mystical sense of saying that you're reading a fairy tale back to them. And that's why we have all these fairy tales with good examples for things, and why they also align with tarot. I could sit here and break down a few of them. I've already broke down Jack and Jill a few times. I could break down Humpty Dumpty right now. I just have to go get the Fool out of the tarot deck. We can even solve Humpty Dumpty right now with the tarot deck as well, and with the full proof and everything. But regardless, you can keep it in that mystical sense and say that you're just reading them that fairy tale back to them. that end goal, because that's what comes from that heart space, that true destiny, that fairy tale dream like adventure that you're desiring is that destiny point. So of course it's going to sound, a bit far-fetched. It's going to sound a bit outlandish to hear, yes, you can get the answer, yeah, there is a path for you to get those things. It might seem like that fairy tale in that sense, but that's the point of it. That's what tarot is trying to do, is remind you it's not as physical as it seems. The only thing that's physical is everything outside of you. The rest of it is fueled and nurtured by pure love, and not by anything outside, not by any outside source. And that's what we need to remember. That's what we tend to forget. That's what tarot has hidden over the years. It is that universal knowing of just how everything is created from that source. How the idea that things can be together they have to agree to be together. The fact that the world is the way it is because there's people that agreed upon things for that to happen. Whether that's a disagreement between an individual and their own self, or an agreement between two parties outside of each other to do something, regardless, there's an agreement that has to take place. Nothing happens off of a disagreement. And when you start to see that, when you start to truly see the world as that heart space, the world as that purity, just simply giving life and sustenance to things that it's nurturing, that it has the ability to. It's like your own heart within the world. Everyone says earth is heart and all that stuff. Think of it genuinely that way. Mother Nature is that heart space. Whatever you're desiring, whatever the human mind is desiring, nature will create a path for it. You just have to be the one to walk that path and take those leaps. It might not work with that specific individual. It might not work with that specific, external outcome. But whatever you're truly desiring can be achieved, and can be received. And that's just the whole thing that tarot is showing you, is that there is a way. You just need to know the path. You need to walk down the correct way. Which again, this is why tarot is a thing. It's not to get messages from spirit, or it's not to even pick up anything about anyone else, because again, it's about you and your life story. If you're wanting your life story to be motivated by other people's choices, you can do that, but what good is that going to be for you? What truth are you going to find about your life? You're only going to simply live by the opinion of others, and it's not going to show you much of that growth. It's not going to give you much of that soul maturity that you're cultivating, that you're creating. I was going to get another card out here as well. Let me see. Where's it at? Okay, I guess we can get judgment out. I guess judgment could do it. Regardless, just for a little fun one, we can break down the mystery of Humpty Dumpty and why no one could put Humpty back together again. And it's a very simple one, honestly. It's really funny how simple it is, because you have all the kings, you have all the king's horses and all the king's men. So that's the kings, that's the horses, obviously, that's the pages, obviously, all the king's men. They couldn't put Humpty together again. Taking the leap, falling off the bridge, cracking your head, getting your ego busted open, however you want to, compare it to getting your egg yolked, however, they couldn't put Humpty back together again because there's no nourishment with the queens. The queens are the only part of that whole element that was missing. You can't put things back together with horsepower, and with brute force. It needs that nourishment. You need to have that love. You need to have that security, for things to flourish in that sense, But that's just a simple rule to solve with tarot. But all sorts of fairy tales are up in here. You have Jack and Jill story. I've talked about that one a million times. Humpty Dumpty. You have the story of Cinderella's within tarot. I'm trying to remember. There's all sorts of biblical examples. The story of Job is within the Bible. Within the tarot. Excuse me. Cain and Abel is within the tarot. The wake up call, the judgment card being that judgment call of showing you, hey, this is where you could be. That premonition as card is the judgment. It's when you're getting that full alertness. The trumpets are being blown. You can think of that being Gabriel if you want to. Trumpets being blown. Regardless, that's how tarot is with the phases of consciousness. It's rooted on that aspect of self, and you don't have to always look at reality that deep, but that's what's going on within life. Is just simply just you being faced with that idea. It's not even something that you get a break from. It's something that's constantly around you, and it can become irritating and feel like it's out of your control. But when you do begin to think about it or see it or talk about it or however, just what we're doing here, it begins to show you how, why that disconnect is there, or it shows you that how that true aspect of self works and how that rational mind has been in control for more times than not. But regardless, that's all I have kind of planned for that. If anyone has any questions about anything that's talked about, or just like tarot and the 4 phases of consciousness, or like needing any sort of like deeper explanations on things, let me know and I will get you. But welcome everyone as well. But yeah, if anyone has any questions about it, why in the order of Ace Queen? The reason why the order is an Ace Queen is because not only because of the zodiac, but also because of the symbology of it. The aces representing the all. It's not bound by any sort of thing. It is the simple full element. It is the fuel behind it. So here, let me just pull out. Let me just get the cards out real quick. Let me just pull out the wands real quick. I got everything all kind of jumbled up here. So anyway, so to go from the aces to the alls to complete, that all comes down and splits. It gives birth. The Divine Mother gives birth from the all down to not the outside physical, the internal, right? So that needs to be nurtured. That nurturing point is when it enters you. Whatever you do to it is your nurturing. When you nurture something, you're just paying attention to it. You're taking care of it. Well, not, I wouldn't necessarily say taking care of it just based off the etymology of the word care. But you're allowing it to be quartered in you. I'll say it that way. You're allowing the idea to be quartered in you. You're giving it a space to live. You're giving it a space to breathe. And that's the queen, the mother. You nurture it. It's the same thing as like a mother bird. It's nesting. It has that nesting energy. Again, it's cardinal. Think of a cardinal bird, right? The starting phase. Going to the page, the cusp. That's the in between phase. That's when it's shifting and morphing. The bird, hatched from the egg and everything, but it isn't quite yet mature enough to fly. It hasn't jumped out of the nest yet. It hasn't took that big leap yet. It hasn't matured. It's not ready to go off on its own just yet. The king is whenever it's done it for a minute, it has the hang of it to a degree, and it is able to move. Even though it might not be perfect, even though the bird might not be able to fly long distances, it can still fly enough to leave the nest and find its own and be going on its own, right? That's the king of it. That's when it has that maturity. It's gone from that feminine nurturing to that masculine energy. And you can even check with the elements of not the elements, excuse me, but the zodiac of it. Aries, Leo to Sag, right? Aries being the starting fire. It hasn't quite started yet. It's a fire that can happen, but it's not quite there, right? And the wand, like here, for instance, this is like, because I already have light here, this would be the wand, right? The idea of this whole lighter here being the wand. The fact that it has liquid in it and every component on here able to start a fire is the queen. The fact that it takes an extra effort to like click it and to get it to start, that's the page. When it's fully lit, hold on, because it's fucking, when it's fully lit, that's when it's going from king to night. This is the night phase. It's able to move. There's something on the physical happening, it's moved, right? That's what we're dealing with within that sense. And that's, again, that's, it not only just works for consciousness, but just how the elements of life work. You know, it's a chemical reaction. It goes from one stage to the next. But the knight is moving forward. That's why every knight has a horse on it. There's something beyond what you're doing that's keeping it alive. I flicked it on. That's all I needed to do was the king. I just needed to ignite something, and I did. What kept it going was the fuel inside of here moving, you know, throughout the whole, you know, however the lighter works. So the whole mechanics of the lighter, keeping that flame lit would be the night of it, you know. That forward move. It's not using any more of my effort. It's no longer needing me to like continuously flick that constantly times to keep that flame stable. It's just one click and it's stable from then on out. That's why you begin from those phases. And you can even think of it as, you know, the mother, the child, the father, and then the elder. If you really wanted to go that deep with it, because, you know, you always go to mother first. You go to mother first, mother sends you to father, and then father sends you on your way, right? That's what's going on with the orders as well. But that's why it begins from queen, page, king to knight. That's all the symbology of it. Welcome in, welcome in. Hopefully we're doing well. But yeah, hopefully that explained it well enough. Yeah, if anyone else has any questions about it, anything about the, you know, 4 phases, or just, you know, rational mind, anything of that nature, the terms that I've been using, be sure to ask, and I can clarify on it and go a little bit deeper on it if we need. And if not, then I believe we are pretty much done. I'll do my best to respond to the comments after the live is posted as well. But yeah, we could go a lot deeper on it. I will say that for sure. The only reason that we're not going as deep on it is because it's just needed to get like a good overdraft of it. Just kind of leveraging as well where everyone is at with the, you know, overstandings of these things and whatnot. Helping those that are like newer to it, and then, you know, those who are more experienced, kind of just running through, getting it either a different viewpoint or just, you know, a memory refresh, however. But that's what we're going to be doing on lives if you're here for a while, is just breaking down different sorts of aspects of within the tarot. You know, talking deeper into like the subjects I mentioned, like the rational mind and the 2 keys, like more of the esotericisms, I guess you could say, with tarot, the you know, the secret parts of it, the hidden things, and just more about this story here on and out. I'm gonna be trying to do that a lot more with the lives. I would do videos. It's just, again, like, I don't want the mic issue that I have right now is just not worth being bothered. So I feel like going live and doing these just be better. Plus, just answering questions live is fun. But yeah, anyone has any questions about it at all, or any sort of comments in that nature, let me know. You know, we're just about in tarot in general, like what tarot is, you know, why it was put in the cards, anything of that nature. The history of like what we're actually messing with is important too, which I can break down a little bit, if need be, of course. Because I do it a lot on the channel, regardless. But it's always important to make sure that we're all up to date with things. But yeah, this is the truth of tarot. It really is just, fairy tales. Genuinely like reading the story of Cinderella. Nah, I didn't figure out. It's so funny because the Ten of Pentacles on the bottom. I still haven't. I still haven't. Um, I'm like getting a list of cards that I have questions about. Um, that I'm gonna be asking. Um, I'm gonna be asking my mentor here soon. Because there's a few things that I'm like, not. I mean, obviously, I'm confused about them. Um, but I'm more confused of like if there's a known direction. Because even like on the Five of Wands, if I can find it, I always like showing this one because it's super interesting. It's literally the only wand card that doesn't have any fucking leaves on it. It is the only card that has a wand without any form of leaf on it, and it's the Five of Wands. It's the wand that the dude in the red is holding. His does not have any life at all, which is why Five of Wands, Leo, and Saturn. You being faced, are you gonna let your flame, your true passion, be ruled by an external source, by the external world that isn't gonna help fuel it, or are you gonna run with it by yourself and move forward? Um, but that's why I hit the one in the red, the ruffian, which is Saturn, has no greenery on it. It's literally a combative nature. Um, you know, you're gonna go down a path that isn't substantial. I mean, it is not gonna have any substance on it. Excuse me. But it's gonna seem easier because it's fitting the norm. You're not fighting. You're not avoiding that pressure point. You're not disciplined enough in what you're desiring to do, and you're letting your five senses, by it's a five card, your five senses expand and explore, and prevent you from doing what you need to do. Or even just being inflamed and knowing that you're being pressured by outside sources to do one thing or another, um, and still moving forward with that determination, that fire and heart. Again, just Leo. Or how are you going to move now that things are becoming more fixed? Now that you know how things are going to be going and things are showing a response, how are you going to move? you know but details like that are super important in tarot, because when you see them, you now understand, oh shit, now I can see everyone else's sticks have greenery, but why doesn't his? And why does everyone have green behind him? Well, because those people were supposed to fall down that path. You weren't. That's why your stick is raised up like this. You're not trying to block or defend path. You're not trying to fit in with everyone else and how they're holding sticks. Because look, if you see their faces, no one's mad. They're exclaiming and happy. The only one that's disgruntled is that dude, and he's blocking you off because you want to walk that way, and they are like, oh, let's go this way. That's the only thing. But again, you have to see these things. A lot of people would just see that and think, oh, they're fighting. Why would they be fighting so early on? You have to think about that. What kind of fight even is this? It's not a fight against a person, it's a fight against Saturn, the astrology of the card, which you're moving through. You're moving through the laws of Saturn. Good luck. Are you are you prepared for it or not? With Leo, it's what you got to figure out. Is where you're at stable enough to move forward, or do you got to make things a little bit more stable? But yeah, these small details within the cards that no one really notices or points out, they change the whole reading. you know it's less about just picking up the cards and seeing them when they first arrive. You got to look at these cards. There's times where I'll look at these cards forever, and I'll pull them out during a reading, and then something completely random will catch my eye that I've never seen before. It's like, so why did that pop up? Well, that's part of the symbology that now I have to familiarize myself with. It wasn't needed up until that point. There was a part of the card that wasn't able to speak to me because I wasn't getting the message that it was giving me in the first place. The only way you can get the messages from the cards is if you're truly seeing what they are. The confusion, the lack of, you know, knowing is from like the confusion of the cards, and the cards can be confusing. The cards don't always give a clear answer. The cards aren't always going to give you like a crystal clear, like everything's hunky-dory type shit. Is sometimes you will get stumped reading cards, and you have to accept that. That doesn't mean you're a bad reader. It just means that the person going through the lessons that they're going through is very interesting and difficult. It might be a part of you that you haven't explored yet. It might be something that you haven't gone deep enough in yet, or it just might be something that you know, you're just not meant to get at this point. Maybe the person has done something so much on their own, by their own rational mind, that even the cards themselves, the path of faith that they're on, is just such a confusing, winding one that there's not even a point to really trace on. And again, that's up to you and your reading abilities. That then goes down to numerology and the basis of the cards, right? Instead of the theology and the symbology of the card going down to the true basis. You know, what's the element? What's the numerology? And what's the planet that it's going through? It's not always, you know, about the imagery at that point. You know, after you get those 3 points down of, you know, the numerology, the element, and the planetary that it's going through, or the luminary, depending on like what's going on, right? You know, the moon and the sun are not planets, they're luminaries. So depending on what, you know, which system you're going through, it all depends on like what you're going to be looking at. And that doesn't change the message from the card. It just changes the message to the individual. That's when the channeling happens. That's when things begin to move forward. But it has to come from first that overstanding of the cards. If someone only overstands the cards as something that can pick up on outside things and nothing about the inside, then they're only going to be helpful to those who are on the materialistic plane and focused on external results rather than internal results. That's the one that's going to gravitate towards, and it's not going to help. It's not going to show them how to get that external, because you have to have some form of internal to have it. And a lot of people who end up, you know, falling within spirituality, or, you know, falling in within, however, you know, the empathic communities and such, they want that external, but they're not giving that internal. And, you know, without overstanding that point of it, it becomes, you know, that cross up. But I mean, it's not as difficult as it is. It's more of that just adventure of exploring it, you know. Sometimes the symbology is super fucking literal, like fish in tarot. Fish does not mean something holy. Fish just means something that's living in water. That's what a fish is. When you see the cups and you see fish involved with the cups, it's just something living in water. The fact that the page has a cup in it, that has the fish in it, the page of cups has a fish in the cup, excuse me, it's because he's speaking fish. He took something from out of the water into new land, and he's trying to hear it. Took it from water, the nourishing mother, to air, to land, to the mind, and he's trying to speak to it. What the fuck do you want me to do with you? I don't know what to do with you. You're out here in land, you're in the air, you're in the elements of the sword, you're in the mental realm. I don't know what the fuck to do with you. I can't speak fish. I gotta learn how to master myself. How do I master myself? Where do I get you from? The waters. Learn to go in the waters. Swim a bit. Be with the fish. You gotta do that. Learn how, learn where that fish came from. Learn what the waters move. Learn how your own waters move. You know, become the king of that self, master it, then go to the king of cups, move forward. Let that feeling become a thought, and let that thought serve feeling. How the hell do you speak to fish? That's the thing. How the hell do you speak to the heart? How do you listen to the heart? It's not even about speaking to the fish. You can talk to the fish. That's the easy part. It's about listening to the fish. You can pick up a dead fish from the supermarket and talk to it. It might not respond. You can talk to it. You got to understand how to hear it. That's the key. You can do anything external, but when it comes down to, you know, receiving something on the internal, receiving that message, is like, how do you do that? And that's what, you know, that's what we're messing with. I forgot with the fish hat, uh, fully represented. I'm not gonna lie. Um, I I came across it when I was writing the first book on duality, though. I remember because of the Pisces Vesta, or like the in between of the Venn diagram, right? When I was doing research on duality, it talked a lot about that, and it brought up about the Pope and Pisces and everything. But I forgot all about it. I don't even. I think I might have mentioned a little bit about it in the book. I had to go back and like check it. Which text I'm pulling from? None today. Today is just a teaching class. I'm just answering questions about the tarot and the four phases of consciousness. Not really doing card pulls. We'll do card pulls tomorrow, probably. Yeah, Steven, yeah. That's what we're talking about. But yeah, we'll be going back to doing some card pulls tomorrow. I just really wanted to get like this class out to talk about this aspect. I don't know why I just have this shuffling addiction. I can't hold these cards without shuffling them. But yeah, if anyone has any other questions about it, about just the four phases or tarot or anything in that sense, let me know. And if not, we'll get off at like 60 minutes. Because I'm kind of out of talking points. Because I got everything I wanted to talk about. I had a little reference sheet of things to go through, and I got through them pretty well. I don't know. I mean, that also like depends, because like any people who are known as Pisces in this life are not actually Pisces or Virgos, so it really depends like which you're truly meaning. The Virgos, people whose like sun sign are Virgos are the actual Pisces, and those who are Pisces sun signs are actually Virgos. The order of the zodiac are completely out of whack. Virgos are Pisces, yeah. Because if you look at excuse me, if you look at the equinoxes, right, the equinoxes are the same because they're the signifiers of the season changing. The only thing that's different are the signs in between. If you look at it from an alchemical sense, because this world is an alchemical one, it's ruled off of the chemical laws, fire, water, air, earth. That's how the zodiacs work, because the planetaries also follow that same order. And my sign, it's still Libra. The cardinals stay the same. Aries is the same. Cancer stays the same. Libra stays the same, and Capricorn stays the same. Those are the only ones that have to stay, because those are the ones that even if they did change it, the weather that we have, the way that nature moves, wouldn't align. So that would be too much of a red herring, I should say, I guess. But we live in the alchemical world. When we put things back into the alchemical balance, and working things out of that sense, things will be, put back together. The only reason why there's so much chaos and why things can't be complete in that sense is because how does each sign affect the weather? Each sign doesn't affect the weather. Those signs are aspects of the evolution of nature. It's the beginning, it's the starting, the birth, the queen, the date of the equinox is the birthing. And then as it goes through those phases, it goes from the page, then the king, and then the night. The night meaning it's moving the end period. This is why you have the three deacons. You have the birth, the sign. What's the sign? The sign. What's the element? Excuse me. The element we're dealing with is fire, right? Aries would be spring, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look up my chart here real quick. Let me make sure I get this right. But this is why your zodiac have the three deacons. Is split up in that sense. Let me make sure I was getting that right though, so I'm not needing to go back later. Where the fuck is it? It is. Yeah, okay, so I was right. I think I was right, right? Yeah. Yeah. So Aries, yeah, Aries is spring. Okay, I'm right. I don't know why I was second guessing that. Anyway, you begin with Aries. It's the queen. It begins, it's the day. When it begins with the first deacon, I forgot how the deacons are split through the months. So let me look up that as well. So your first deacon, right? March 21st through 30th. That's your first deacon of Aries, right? That's your page, going from your page to your king. The second deacon, which is Leo, the king, March 31st through April 9th. And then the final deacon, the Sagittarius, the night, the transition, April 10th through April 19th, right? That moving from spring to fall, going from that, going from the, from the fire to the water, and going down that cycle. But that's why it's in that sense. Those are your three deacons and how it's split up in that sense. So it's not like the elements are in control or the zodiac are in control of the weather, but they describe how the weather changes in that sense and the phases of it. The birthing of it, the start, the middle, the last. The birthing of it, the start, the middle, the last. The mother gives birth. The child is born. The child begins to run and mature and learn lessons and grow. It becomes the mature adult. The king is able to move off on its own with the sources that it's already learned, the horses or the knowledge that it's running with and moving with. Such as the weather, just as that goes. But that's what's going on in there. And if you have, the Dendera tablets or the Dendera zodiac, truly should say, if you're wanting to find an image of it, you can see how it's split up in that sense as well. And I can also show you let me go to my knowledge thing. Where the hell is it? I can't remember if I put it in here, if I put it in the other folder, but I'll find it and I'll show it. It is 1000% in the other folder. Isn't it? All right, there we go. I got it. So, but anyway, yeah, this is the correct dates from the 21st And on the Dendera tablet, you can see the queens are holding up. You have the masculine representing the change, you know, going in within that circle. The two meet, they exchange information. You can even see how the pattern even shows, you know, how they're all connecting, how they switch and change. The season, the apex of the season, the combination of the two from past till, you know, the past season and the season it's going into, the cross fading of them. You can see all that. And then even here, a better sense, you can see the, you know, the conscious. So I added the page in there. I guess the page is not a part of it. My apologies on that. But this is the full cycle of it. You know, Queen, King, Knight. This is what we're looking at when we're seeing it. And again, from Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, Libra, Aquarius, Gemini, Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo. That is the order. And this is the Dendera tablet, you know, crossing of it. Reading the Dendera tablet in that sense. But that's what's moving on. And that's what's going on within that order of things. Excuse me. And then we can also, I can show you this as well. And this just also goes into more like what's going on. Cardinal fires and stuff, the fixed mutable, showing you like the phases, 2 to 4 wands, 5 to 7, you know, 8 to 10, the 3 deacons all throughout. The aces are obviously the full fire sign part of it. But again, idea, feeling to thought to reality. This is how things are created. This is the left side. This is the right side of the brain. This is the intuitive. Excuse me. Yeah, this is the intuitive, and this is the rational part. And that is, you know, again, just more of the order of how we move, and more of the order of what we learn and how it is taught. Everyone that says that the right side is intuitive and the left is rational, they are not right. They are incorrect. It's taught backwards for a reason. It's talked about so loudly and ignorantly, not corrected for a reason as well, because if people don't know it's wrong, they're gonna run with it. The fact that no one's out speaking about it loudly is because people want to be ignorant to that fact of it. It's a lie that's been around for so long that the change hasn't even heard yet. Obviously, we know that everything we're taught has been backwards. That's why, and sometimes you see a compass where the directions are switched, because sometimes east is on this side and sometimes east is on that side. You can see where things get confused and swapped around and confused. That's what they're trying to do, is keep us in that loop. Our left is intuitive. The left is the spiritual, always. The right is the physical, always is what we know. This is how we move through things. It's shown through all the symbolisms. And even in the Roman times, whenever the occult era was happening and they made their own drawings and stuff, they inverted the images. You can even see the feminine and the masculine element. First, the feminine's on the right, the masculine's on the left, but it's because it's being seen from your mirror point of view. It's showing you who you are. Alchemy art is just art of you. It's just showing you who you are. It's a mirrored image. My left is your right on that screen. It's the same thing. We're just mirrored. That's all you're doing, is you're looking at a mirror version of yourself when you're looking at alchemy, when you're looking at tarot, and you're seeing that other side of you. You're seeing the part of you that you're not listening to or giving that nurturing or that attention to. And that's how we, you know, that again is why we're kind of taught backwards in that sense. It can definitely be helpful when you know that, but you know, first you have to know that reality is your mirror, and then when you see that, now you can see everything's taught backwards. What you really thought was one way is truly another. It's just crossed around, you know. And, you know, people go like, yeah, but your right hand is controlled by your left brain or whatever. You can say that all day long. At the end of the day, it's just showing you still there's something that crosses and gets misinterpreted when it comes from internal to external. Still, that's again part of that human flaw that should actually teach us more of what's going on, rather than being an excuse to keep something, you know, in a solid statement or in a solid way. But again, this is the mindset of an actual tarot reader. When you do tarot readings, what you are is a psychiatrist. What you are trying to be is a psychic, and a psychic is not what you think it is. Sai meaning the mind, and chick meaning skill. Someone with a skillful mind, someone that knows how to use their mind. If you are running off of fear or the rational mind and you don't know how to listen to your heart or to get your mind to stop, barking so loudly and keeping keeping you out of that procrastination mode, you're not a master over your mind. If you yet don't see the aspects of how you react to reality and how your internal mentality reflects the external mentality that you're going to have and all sorts of things, then you're not really being a skillful person with your mind. If you're not allowing your mind to generate things of abundance and blessings for you rather than panic and lack, then you're not truly a psychic. You're not using your mind in a skillful manner in that sense. And that's what people need to understand when messing with these words. Again, the compound words, it's in the words. It's two words put together. People just think it just means something completely different. No, it's a compound word that explains to you what that word is. A psychic isn't someone that talks to people. A psychic isn't someone who's intuitive. Everyone's intuitive. It's part of the fucking brain. It's the whole point of why you have a pineal gland. Duh, we all have one. It's not something that can be blocked or turned off by anything on the physical. Only you can be turned off from it yourself by listening to your rational mind rather than your heart. The more turned away from your heart you are, the more blocked your intuition is. That's why your third eye and your heart chakra are so combined together, because they simply are just for telling you what's going on. Your third eye representing you and your clarity, and your heart representing you and your receptivity. Are you receiving things clearly or not? But again, it's the lack of alchemy of these things. It's the lack of truly building and tearing apart these subjects of spirituality and just allowing it to remain what it's taught. Not playing with the subject, not experimenting with the subject, seeing how far it can expand one way or the other. That people forget to do. This is again, it's what life is about. You begin to realize that life is this science experiment, that you are this scientist, that you have this hypothesis. How am I going to get this? This is my end goal. How am I going to get that? And it's up to you to allow the chemical reactions inside of you to let you have perpetual motion for the external. We can talk about this in multiple ways, and I always will. But again, it's all about this alchemical, the state of tarot, the simplicity of it, without going too deep into it, of course, and just knowing what we're truly messing with, and how it's not that it's not as mystical as it should be, but it's less delusional than the people who are actually reading it is. Because again, it's not it's a problem solver. It should be able to help you solve. It's a simple tool. It really is. Tarot is a super fucking simple tool. You shuffle the cards, you pull whatever you need to pull out, and whatever you get is what you get. You just read the card, it's yours. It's very simple tool, but it's intricate because it's a book. It's a 72-page book that tells the same story on every card in a different way by showing you which faction or which element, which part of consciousness you're actually working with. Yeah, exactly, Saint. The actual true world of mysticism, which, by the way, the term mystic used to be the word for God. Magic, mage, these words were used for the god back in the day when they were trying to come up with a name for this thing. But way before religion was a thing, these were the names. Arcana, these magical terms that we have today were terms used that describe what God was, because they didn't have this overarching thing. But regardless, moving forward, with tarot, with understanding of the mentality of this, is how we're gonna solve a lot of the issues with life. Not only just with life, but find the key to your actual true destiny, seeing how easy it really is. And it's not about just clicking with it instantly. It's really about going down that path and building up that resistance. The more you see it, the more you know you can, The little engine that could, I think I can, I know I can. However you need to think about it, right? It's all these things put together to show you that it's going to repeatedly happen to you. These processes aren't going to end. It's not there to tear you down. It's not even there to build you up. You have the ability to choose what it's going to do for you. The only thing that you can't change that's going to happen. You just have to change how it's going to motivate you. But again, this is the motion. This is the motive. This is the premise. This is the why, really, behind what I'm doing and the whole thing of the tarot union that's coming up and why it's going to be made. It's simply so we can get these truths out again. This needs to be common knowledge. Imagine, I mean, seriously, and I genuinely mean this, imagine a world where everyone just kind of had this understanding. Even if they didn't fully agree to it, right? It's still like a full overstanding. It's the same thing as the phrase, it is what it is. Everyone fucking knows it is what it is. Imagine if it is what it is was replaced with this knowledge. Even if it wasn't fully accepted, the fact that it would be that plain of an answer, and that would be the next coping mechanism, is seeing that, how advanced people would actually be able to move forward. But again, this is process of what we're getting to. It's the end goal, where the David and the Goliath effect, that one instance, that one speak, that one word, that one sentence, whatever, that one event that has to happen for everything to just click and work is what we're moving forward towards. It doesn't matter who gets to that point. It doesn't matter who says the fucking golden sentence. The fact that there's emotion behind it is the only reason why that sentence is going to be said. And that's what we're doing, is we're building until we find someone to say the sentence. Who knows? Someone in this chat could say the sentence that then triggers that grand awakening. I could say the sentence one day on live, and it could trigger it. My mentor could say it. Some 2-year-old at the fucking mall could say it. You don't know who's gonna say it. The fact that it's out here in public and something is out here screaming and reverberating out for it to be sent back in is proof enough that there is going to be something changing. The fact that it's attracted attention, the fact that it's got people, to gravitate to, the fact that, there are people in here interested, even if you don't care about what I'm saying or not, the fact that it's gravitating is showing a response to the nature that someone is now going to be that catalyst. Someone is now going to get that golden key to say that. Doesn't matter who. It's just the fact that we're working on that path together to get someone to do it. It might not be something I can understand. It might not be something anyone else can understand. Someone has that key who has it. That's what we're finding. And it's not about, looking outside. It's about going deep with internal to attract that key, to attract that other individual, that side of you even that needs to come out and say that thing, Even if that digging inside of you is saying something that triggers it into someone else for them to say it. Regardless, we are planting seeds. And I've been one to say that all the time, that I have been planting very specific seeds. Some people who've been with me for a while have definitely kind of seen how those seeds have sprouted here and there. But I for sure plant seeds. I might not talk about it, instantly. I might not talk about it for like a few months, but I always get back to that point somewhere, somehow, and that seed gets that nourishment. It's all we're doing, is making sure that people are aware of these things, seeing it. And again, it doesn't have to be agreed upon. It just needs to be something that's known. Because once it's known, once more consciousness are like aware of it, it's clicked in, then it can start moving forward. Then it can start branching out. But regardless, this is the adventure of it. This is the path of David and Goliath. This is the awakening, the surrounding of everyone, seeing who's going to be the one to take down the giant, or who's going to be the one to make the big change, who's throwing the stone, who's starting the domino effect, Nah, women create life. What came first, the chicken or the egg? The egg has to exist before the chicken does. The nurturer, the mothering space has to exist before the external reality. The mother creates. The father supplies, but the mother creates. The mother is the true creator. Father can only do things within matter and time. That's why when father, places his seed in, it takes time for it to manifest. It's only able to manifest because it has that resting, nurturing place. With that, man could put that seed anywhere. You can go outside and come in the grass, right? It's not going to do anything. But when you put that seed into a fertile woman, it begins to grow. That's what we're using, that nurturing substance. It needs that space to grow. It needs that proper attunement. The feminine creates, the masculine supplies. The masculine delivers to the feminine what it needs so that it can do its job, and then move forward with the masculine again to create things further on earth, on the physical, or however, right? And that's what's moving forward with that. And that, that is the answer to that riddle as well. Like, it is the egg that comes first. It doesn't matter what the chicken is. You wouldn't know what a chicken is. The fact that you have to ask the question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? What does the chicken look like? What is the characteristics of that chicken? Why would a beast named a chicken exist without proof of that nurturing, without proof of it being there first? That egg is proof. We know that chickens come from eggs. We just don't know what a chicken, if that egg is a chicken egg or not. But it comes from that point. Without the seed, life cannot spawn. Yeah, but the woman carries both seeds. The man only carries one. The woman carries, a mixed pair. Look at their chromosomes. The woman has already ended up creating more of itself than man has. It has more of than man can produce. It's already nurtured itself enough to create. The woman self-ovulates. The woman doesn't need a man to ovulate. That's why they have the periods. That they go through that reset system. They don't need the masculine to go through and do that. They automatically do that themselves. They are the seed in that sense. They hold the seed. They hold all that. All they need is that nourishment. They need what the masculine can supply. That doesn't mean that the masculine doesn't have a huge role in it, but people are focused more on the action than the actual nurturing place, the actual reason why that existence can be there. This has nothing. I'm just gonna preface it, even though obviously we know this here, but like, this has nothing to do with like gender equality or anything of that nature. This is simply just the rules of life. There's no way, the only reason why Eve was created is because Adam's rib was removed, the ribosomes. The DNA of Adam was removed and then cloned into the female. He was made from Adam. Adam wasn't, pumping into animals and creating those babies. There was something that created a life force from Adam directly from. Eve was just simply a clone of Adam. The only one that wasn't a clone was Lilith. They were supposed to be equals. They were made from, equal ground in that sense. And going into that story, you can kind of see, that comparison in that. Exactly. Exactly. Like you like the feminine body is not explored enough. Like, we do not know enough, like, genuinely fully about women scientifically to truly like grasp. Women truly just generate life inside of them. It's not like they go through like life and death cycles. That's the whole thing of like period. They're literally flushing the death out of them to bring more life, and they're like they don't need anything outside. That's what we're messing with. This is what the feminine energy is. This is what mother does. This is what the divine mother does. This is the whole cycle of it. We carry the elements from which we came from, where we came. We all carry the elements from mother, and we all carry the elements from father. But yeah, like it's this thing that we don't know too much about, and it's because it's a very complex system, and we really take not just the physical feminine, but the feminine energy in full for granted in that sense. And again, it's you can see it within the world. That's why we overwork with underpaying. We live in a masculine driven world. We live in a masculine faced forward world, which is fine, but it's over. It's way too much. It's way too much masculine force. There's not enough nourishment. No one has enough to survive. We're not living, we're surviving at this point. There's no love, there's no nurturing in that sense, which is why we bring back the mother, we bring awareness back to that mothering place. It needs to be balanced. The mother's not going to move, the feminine is not going to move. The masculine needs to draw back to the feminine. The feminine has always remained where it needed to be, you know. And that's why in today's society, even now, like, we have women that are like stepping in more of the masculine role because they're not receiving that full-on masculine trait. The masculine is becoming more feminine because they are not receiving that nourishment, and the feminine are becoming more masculine in that sense because they aren't able to, you know, receive that nourishment themselves either, and they're being put into a more working situation rather than a nurturing situation where we would be more in tune with who we would be vibrationally rather than societally. um but these are just, you know, the mirroring effects of how we treat ourselves, um and how we're kind of like raised. um but yeah, the feminine element um needs a lot more studying because again, it's that receiving energy. It's the darkness. We don't know what comes from it. It's the unknown. It's the creation part, that we aren't aware of. You know, even like when they, I forgot what it was. I think they did like a, what was it, like an MRI or something, or something. Whenever like the sperm like fertilizes the seed, and how this spark of like life, like a light, literally shines, when it connects. You know, what does that represent? That's the pyre. But how does that pyre exist? Those two elements have to come in together for that light to happen. So what is that masculine carrying, and what is that feminine receiving to allow that light to click? And that's, you know, what we're like learning about, basically, not within tarot, but just in general. We need to be studying more on is that flash of light that happens, you know, because then again, like, we can call that the Big Bang, you can call that whatever, you know, all sorts of things. No, no one is discrediting that, Stephen. I'm not discounting nothing. I'm just telling you the fact of the nature. Everyone is so quick to defend this masculine nature. No one's defending that feminine nature, which is why, again, everyone's so focused on, like, oh, we need to focus more on the masculine trait and all these things. Sure, but what are we focusing on within that masculine trait? The nourishment of it. So what are we focusing within that masculine? The feminine element of that masculine. It's not just about the feminine on the physical, we're talking about the element of it. So when we're talking about feminine, I'm not just talking about females, I'm talking about the male part, the man that has the feminine inside of them as well. We're not just talking about that one thing. This is the part that people don't oversee. No one, you know, we're mentioning the full part of it. It's just people are so rationalized to it where they only see it as that physical aspect. They want to draw it back to that physical aspect. They're not letting it branch out to what it's fully developed to be, which is why we're stuck on this boundary where we're not receiving any sort of nourishment for the work that we're putting in, because we're not allowing what we already have to be nourished. So we need to be able to, you know, see it grander than that. Because this argument of, you know, of how this, you know, the masculine, the feminine, and yada yada within the physical doesn't get you anywhere except for on two separate sides. It keeps you within that rational set where you're not seeing one side as the full as the other, you know. So it's that full contribute. It's not discounting one for the other, but it's giving full credit where one side needs to be fully seen, where one side is being pressure is being forced out, and trying to receive that attention in a way where it's not nourished by it, but in a way where it's fueled by it to create some form of external change, rather than letting it nurture and create that internal balance. Exactly, because that's the thing again. Because all sperm is that protein. The feminine is just receiving that protein. All that's going on is this the ovaries within the ovum and everything is receiving that protein, that nourishment. But at the same time, the feminine doesn't need that nourishment to create that effect, that same sort of effect. The body does that with itself on its own. The masculine can't do things like that. The masculine has to be an additive force for it to add its own effect to it, rather than the nature of itself being there. But yeah, that's what's going on within the range of things within life. The the heart space, the feminine element within every part, the nourishment within every part needs to be seen and actualized. You know. But yeah. But yeah, whenever, tarot is just one of those really, really interesting things because it's not the card, it's just tarot, the science of it. It's very, very intriguing because it goes over everything within life. It shows the balance. But yeah, regardless, if no one else has any other questions or like topics about this, we'll be heading out. And then hopping back in tomorrow. And then when we hop in tomorrow, we'll do 2 card pulls and whatever. Sorry, no, don't be sorry. It's all good. No worries, no worries. We have multiple conversations here all the time. There's just not like when talking about these things without having a visual representation to look at and kind of gauge, it's hard to tell how deep I can get without losing too many people. I look a little shook today. Nah, I didn't sleep at all last night. I was up studying. I've been doing a lot of things. I've also finished a song that I'm planning on releasing. So I'm completing a lot of things. I'm in a very anticipating mood. I have a lot of things that I'm really happy to getting finished. Is all. Because I'm finally I'm in the full motion of getting a lot of the plans that I've had in the past completed. So I'm just full on doing the plans, I guess. I'm planning and moving forward. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Cause see, that's the thing. Whenever we talk about whenever we end up talking about these subjects, right? It can get really devolved really quick. Um, but it's also really good to talk about things like that because it stretches that far. We can't just start off speaking about things spiritually. There is a physical solid boundary within that. it's, you know, the further that we get into the topic, the more detached from the physical and the more spiritual and the more of the element of like things beyond our comprehension, you know, begin to like fall in. But yeah, that's like a whole thing that I don't want to get into because I'm not wanting to get into like the whole like science of it. Not, you know what I mean? Right. Exactly, Stephen. Fucking. All right, let's check the bone mass density. Okay, we have to check bone density. We got to check all sorts of levels. You know, what was the skull shape look like? It's fucking. What was the height? You know, where were they buried? All these fucking things. Oh my god, that's so cool, Lucy. Yep, every damn time it went down that route, it's just because you can't like, what the hell? The fuck they got flying over above me, dude? What in the hell? Get out of here! I don't want none of these fucking weird ass helicopter noises near me, dude. Shit makes me smile every time they spying. I fucking love it. It's whatever. But yeah, if no one else has any questions about this, we're gonna hop off, um, and we will just click back in tomorrow. Um, yeah, and we will get things moving and grooving. But yeah, regardless, thank you all for being here for the lovely like perversations. Um, all these things. Lust. What about lust? What about lust? Overcoming it. Lust can come from two different things, but they're both related with the sacral chakra, and as well a little bit with the solar plexus. Lust can be created from a lack of or a craving of. It doesn't turn into greed until you start hoarding it, because greed is whenever you want more to yourself. Lust is just whenever you desire it. So if you're craving something that you don't have, or craving more of what you do, and not hoarding it but wanting to indulge in it, right? That being that lust. Work with that sacral chakra and that solar plexus. Don't self-indulge as much. Place stronger boundaries if you are giving into things too easily. Um, and especially with lust, remember that the things that you lack, you can create within yourself. Depending on what the lust is that you're desiring as well. Like, you know, is this lust for an individual? Is this lust for a feeling? Is this lust for something on the physical? It all depends, right? You can transmute lust really by, you know, finding the answer, looking at it from a different angle, looking at the question backwards in a sense. You know, if you're lusting over an individual, what are you craving that the individual gives you? That feeling, that sensation, then what, you know, let that feeling and sensation come to you, and ask that sensation, what can I do to bring this to myself? What activities can I do to bring this to myself? If the lust is something to like attract something on the physical, what can you be doing in smaller steps to bring that closer to you? Journaling, things of that nature, planning, you know, looking around at things that you're wanting, window shopping, or however, to help, you know, generate ideas or generate awareness, excuse me, so that you can be more acceptable to ideas. For sexual urges, creativity is your big helper. whenever you have a hyper active sacral in that sense, where you're having lust for sexual things, creativity is your complete opposite that you're going to need to focus on. So begin to, dance, begin to exercise, do yoga, do stretches, take walks, draw, sing, make music, do something creative with that sense. You can use that same fuel with imagination, you know, even if it's just, staring outside and, letting your imagination run wild within the clouds. Spinning it in that sort of sense is the best solution. I got you, no worries. It's what I do. But creativity is your helper when it comes down to sexual urges. I used to struggle with it myself. Creativity, it gets you. I got into drawing. I got into like um, this like VHS artwork. Um, it's like using a CTR screen emulator. I make art with that and stuff. I got into like a bunch of interesting art um, medias by doing that. But definitely, it will help you, especially if you do like even writing a book or something, or writing a poem or something. Just doing things of that nature, it helps relieve that. Um, but yeah, without further ado, if no one else has anything else, I'm gonna post that in there. Everything is there. Emails there if you need to contact me for email. Donation links there if you want to do that. The website's there if you want to check out the website. I updated the bios to all of the things that we have in there on the site. Not all the services are on the site, so if you want like a full list of services, don't feel free to email me. Feel free to email me if you have questions or whatever, anything as well. I'm a lot better. I'm getting better at responding to emails since I'm not as busy anymore. But regardless, I love each and every one of y'all to the moon and back, tenfold and forever, and I will see you all later.